Actually, as a matter of fact, those that served in SS, Hitler's private army, they were volunteers. It was not a regular army like Burma.
Okay.
It was their choice to serve in SS. But of course, we must remember that not all of them were very fanatic. They were just many of them just conformists, or behaved like conformists. You know, the propaganda in Nazi Germany was very strong. It was very destructive for simple-minded people. But today, we tend to exaggerate and generalize that the propaganda was destructive for everyone in Germany. It's not true. Many of those that serve in SS, they went as volunteers to SS because of conformism. Why to risk my life fighting with Russians in the Eastern Front if I have a chance to be the SS guard as the former member of Hitler Youth? So why not to use that chance not to go straight on to the Eastern Front? They could hear what was happening to their friends, colleagues in the Eastern Front, killed by Russians, if not by the weather conditions in that horrible hell on earth. So they happened to be sent to a place like Auschwitz. Many of them were shocked. They started drinking vodka. They overused some drugs. It was difficult for many of them. But once the first concentration camps in Germany were established for Germans themselves, Sachsenhausen, Dachau, it was the very first lesson they got. Keep your mouth shut and follow the system. To have a good job, lucrative job, to have a better position for your family, to make some career. So they were, by the Nazi propaganda, of course, they were being indoctrinated, but on the other hand, many of them took the Nazi methods of dealing with the opponents of the Nazi system as the good lesson of a good way to learn conformism. Many of those that served for the system, they were just cunning foxes. They could see the stupidity of the system. It was impossible to change all those Germans into some blind beasts because of many stupid things. Let me give you some examples, because propaganda was very strong. But beside the propaganda, Germans could see very obvious stupidities, like, for example, Germanization of Slavs.
What?
Germanization of Slavs, Slavic people, okay, yeah. Slavic nations like Poles. In the 40s, they suffered from lack of people. So there was a special organization created for the Germanization of Slavs, Lebensborn. They looked for Slavic kids in places like Auschwitz. And those who were found to have blue eyes and blonde hair, they were taken to Germany. They were adopted by German families and brought up as Germans. Over 200,000 only Polish kids got Germanized that way. There were some other from Ukraine. So everything in the Nazi system was based on racial definitions. Goebbels shouted, the Minister of Propaganda, all the Nazi shouters shouted about pure blood, pure Aryans. The first victims of Nazism in the first gas chambers already in the 30s in Sonnenstein, the hospital for mentally ill, were Germans that were disabled, mentally, physically disabled. It was to purify the German blood and genes. It was in the 30s. And then in the 40s, they decided to Germanize Slavs, good-looking Slavs, because they suffered from lack of people. So no one was supposed to ask the question, how is it possible to change the dirty blood subhuman with blue eyes and blonde hair for a pure blood Aryan without any transfusion of his blood? Doesn't make any sense. The first that shouted about euthanasia to annihilate disabled Germans, to shorten their sufferings and to, by the way, to purify the German blood, the first that shouted about that was Mr. Goebbels. The Minister of Propaganda. I don't know if you could see some documentaries with Mr. Goebbels. Very short man, not a pure Aryan at all, with one leg shorter. He was disabled himself, and no one was supposed to notice that very visible, stupid, absurd. He was shouting that the necessary thing for the system is to purify the German blood, German genes. That's why disabled Germans, we have to shorten their sufferings, by the way, to purify the German blood, German genes. No one was supposed to ask the question why he doesn't commit suicide for the higher cause. He had 5 kids with those dirty genes.
Interesting. Really?
So I gave it 2 examples of the Nazi hypocrisy, but the Nazi hypocrisy shows the stupidity of the system. Germanization of Slavs. The fact that Goebbels was disabled himself. Eventually, this is the most obvious and most stupid, absurd. Eventually, no one was allowed to ask the question, why Führer doesn't have blue eyes and blonde? Why he's so short? Doesn't fit to any of the definitions about Führer's audience. Keep your mouth shut and follow the system, man. So through the prism of those very visible absurds, it was impossible to change all those that served in a place like Auschwitz into some blind beasts. They were conformists. Conformism is not fanaticism. And sometimes they show us on some documentaries, they are explaining of what happened here through the prism of fanaticism. It was possible for human beings like you to work in a place like Auschwitz, to kill innocent pregnant women, children, because they were very fanatic. They had been indoctrinated already in Hitlerjugend and then in SS. It's not true. It's partially true. Many of those simple-minded people really believe what they were doing. But not all. Many of them working here, they behave like conformists. God, I don't have to blame myself. Do I have to blame myself? I'm killing innocent men. I know he's innocent. But I'm also innocent. I have my family in Germany. I don't want my kids to be orphans. So he is on that side, I'm on this side. I'm killing kids. I'm the lucky one, he's not. That's the way the war goes on. I happen to be sent to SS, from SS to this place as the guard. I have some orders from higher ranking officers. They are the ones to be blamed, not me. I have to keep doing my duty. If not, the other one is going to do it. I'm going to finish my life in the Eastern Front. So not following my duty, not following my orders, I'm committing suicide, which is the sin. God, you don't want me to sin. Kind of paradox. But this is the way of thinking many of them used to get rid of very uncomfortable feeling of guilt. This is the way we human beings are using, which is conformism. It's not fanaticism. So we cannot exaggerate that all of them were very fanatic. I know it's very easy to think that way. It's easier, much easier, to understand what happened here thinking that way. But in this way, calling them fanatics, we also tend to separate ourselves. So us, human beings, from that kind of evil. It was about it's not about me. It was about fanaticism. No, it's about you. Many of them were human beings like you. Found themselves in this, without any question, difficult situation. And they behave like conformists, many of them, if not majority of them, as far as I know from some accounts of the survivors.